and see you when silence became her loudest ally. Caroline Bondi sat alone in her dimly lit living room, the only illumination a lone table lamp casting long, wavering shadows across the walls. The steady tick of an antique clock on the mantelpiece sounded unnaturally loud in the stillness of the midnight hour. A bead of sweat trickled down her temple despite the chill in the air. Suddenly, her phone shattered the silence with a shrill ring. Heart pounding, she stared at the screen. No caller ID, then hesitantly swiped answer. The moment she did, a distorted voice crackled through the static, its urgency coiling around her like a noose. Caroline, you remember the photograph. Her breath caught. That name, her mother's maiden name, hadn't crossed her lips in decades. Every word that followed dripped with unsettling precision. Cryptic symbols carved into the wood of an old desk, a meeting at an abandoned warehouse on the town's outskirts, and a photograph tucked inside her grandmother's long-forgotten journal. Before she could reply, the line went dead. Caroline's pulse thundered. She glanced around the cozy room that had always felt like home. It now felt like a cage. By 2 a.m., rain-slick streets glistened under her headlights as she drove toward the old industrial district. The radio sputtered half-forgotten jazz tunes, blending eerily with the patter of raindrops. Each mile peeled away the safety of her everyday life and drew her deeper into a labyrinth of long-buried family secrets. She parked near a crumbling brick warehouse, its broken windows like empty eye sockets staring into the void. Steeling herself against the cold, Caroline slipped from the car. Water pooled in the cracked pavement, mirroring the storm clouds overhead. Inside, the air was stale and thick with dust. Faint graffiti, symbols she'd once seen only in her grandmother's journal, sprawled across the walls. Her heart pounded. Somewhere in this decay lay the next clue, and with it, the truth about her bloodline. A sudden metallic click echoed behind her. She spun around to find a heavy steel door slightly ajar. Beyond it stretched a narrow corridor, its peeling paint concealing hand-scribbled numbers and letters. They seemed to pulse in the dim light, beckoning her forward. The hallway led her to an unmarked room, lit only by a single swinging bulb. A battered wooden table occupied its center, holding two items that stole her breath: an old family photograph, yellowed with age, and a leather-bound journal embossed with the same cryptic symbols that haunted her dreams. Hands trembling, she picked up the photograph. It showed 3 generations of Bondis on the lawn of a grand manor she'd never known existed. Beside it, the journal lay open to pages filled with elegant script and hand-drawn maps, pointing to an abandoned chapel deep in the woods. A rush of wind slammed the steel door shut behind her, plunging the room into darkness. The bulb flickered, and Caroline felt eyes upon her, silent, unseen witnesses. She knew now that she was not alone in this unfolding drama. Her car's headlights cut through the fog as she navigated winding forest roads to the chapel's ruined stone archway. Vines choked the walls, and a battered spire leaned as though bowing under the weight of its secrets. Inside, the air smelled of damp earth and decay. The wooden doors groaned as she pushed them open. Moonlight filtered through shattered stained glass, painting fractured rainbows on the ancient stone floor. At the altar, a heavy, iron-bound chest beckoned. Caroline's breath caught as she inserted the ornate key, its handle shaped like intertwined serpents, into the chest lock. With a resounding click, the lid swung open to reveal relics of her lineage. Letters written in trembling ink, locket portraits of ancestors she'd never met, and a parchment proclamation dating back centuries. It spoke of a clandestine society entrusted with guarding a truth so perilous that even its revelation could fracture the world's power structures. A sudden gust of wind swept through the chapel, extinguishing her flashlight. In the darkness, Caroline sensed movement. When she spoke, her voice was a tremor in the vast silence. "Who's there?" A figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in midnight blue. The stranger's eyes glinted with sorrow and resolve. In a soft, measured tone, They reveal that Caroline's birth had been more than chance. It was the culmination of a prophecy. Her family had been chosen generation after generation to protect a hidden covenant, and now that covenant's guardian was gone. You hold their legacy in your hands, the stranger murmured. Embrace it, or the darkness will consume you. Caroline's heart thundered. The journal's pages fluttered in her grasp, as though urging her toward destiny. She felt the weight of centuries pressing upon her. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the towering pews in stark relief. Caroline stepped forward, every footfall a declaration. I choose to know the truth, she said, voice steady despite the storm raging in her chest. At her words, the stranger nodded and receded into the gloom. The chapel's walls seemed to breathe around her, as though acknowledging her vow. Dawn's first light crept through the shattered window panes, painting the scene in soft gold. Caroline emerged into the pale morning air, the journal and relics secured in a satchel at her side. Though the rain had passed, the world felt reborn. She was no longer the woman who had answered that fateful call. She was the new guardian of a truth that transcended fear. As she walked back to her car, she whispered to herself,